Okay, we're up to Daf Chav Kimel, and we're learning to Lilo Nishmas Simba Bas Chaim Yaakov. My my cousin's daughter. My cousin was nifted at an early age. Her daughter was nifted at an early age, and the Shama Shav and Aliyah. She left like six children, and husband was a Russian fellow, but a big Talmid Chacham. Mamash Moshe Ruba into learning, and the Shama Simba Bas Chaim Yaakov and the Shama Shav and Aliyah. Okay, Itmar. Three lines down. Koimitz the mincha chayta. Now we know the koimitz of a chayta did not have a, did not have did not have shemen. You might remember from earlier in the Masechta, fellas. There's two kabbanis minchas that did not have oil: the mincha of a chayta and the mincha of a saita. And Shimon, whose Darish time of the cross, said, because we don't want to allow them to bring a carbon that's mehudar. We don't want to bring a carbon that was very, very nice. So you didn't have any shemen. So what happened over here was the kaimitz of mincha that you went ahead and sheshamnoi that you got shemen into it. So what are we speaking about? Rashi tells us shenasim of shemen lachash shekamtzu. You put shemen in the kaimitz after it was. Rabbi Yochanan Amar pasul. Rabbi Yochanan says it's pasul, right? Because it's not supposed to have oil. Reish Lakish Amar, hu atzmai mishachshachai b'shirei haloig. The kaimitz of the chayte, they would go ahead and they would rub in the klisharis of a mincha to get some oil in it, umaleu, right? So certainly what it's fine to do it, okay? Who atzmai mishachshachai b'shirei haloig umaleu. In other words, like this. Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion that it's the minchas chayta should not have any oil at all, and if you put oil in, it's going to passel it. And it's not that you put it in; it fell in. Shnasan alav, it was put on it. You put on it. So the Rabbi Reish Lakish is of the opinion that in every carbon chayta, they would go ahead and rub it to get moist oil from the insides of a kli that had oil. I saw that the article brought down from the Brisker Rav. Why would they do that? To give it body. If it was just silas, guys, it's hard to keep it together. By putting a little abyssal ale to go ahead and put a little oil in it, it's going to go ahead and give it some body, to give it some body. So because if you do that, so obviously then it would be okay to put in. Okay. It's a very interesting question. I like this Taisus. You remember Tiny the other week was bothered by the oil is going to be on the side. If you put it in, how could you have a half minute? The belila should be in not a klishares. How are you going to get from the klichol to the klishares? Isn't going to be mincha. He was bothered by that. So if you look at the second Taisus, pirish loig shel menachos sheni taisa. They would go ahead. They'd have the loig. There'd be a kli, and there'd be leftover oil on the sides of the kli, and from that oil they would rub that kaimitz to get that oil. From taima hatram bepirkin hashemen miutoy ma'akiv es ruboy. So l'chayre, if you're missing some, it's not good. V'yishleima, listen to this teretz, guys. Shleinim netar l'malchei ashares. V'yevsh shleishar b'loig min hashemen. The Torah wasn't given to malchei ashares. It had to be, in other words, you're right. Oil it adheres to the kli, and it's not possible to get it all out. So there'd be a little bit left over, and you would take the chayta and put it in there. But the teretz, it's a very good teretz. What was bothering Yehuda Horowitz? How's it possible to go from a klichal to klisharis? It's going to stay. And Nakanami, the Torah wasn't given to the Malachei Shares, right? That's why that's very very nice nakuda. Okay. Anyway, so Reish Lakish says since they would do that, so Memela, it's okay. Fred the Gemara Kasha. How could Reish Lakish say it's okay? It says La Yasim Allah Hashem Avlitan Allah Lavaina. And that it says Ahu Shal Yikfa La Shemin B'Chaverasa. That means before the kmitza, you shouldn't go ahead. When it's before the kmitza, you should not go ahead and put oil. But after the kmitza, then you could put a little oil in. Okay, after the kmitza, you could put a little oil in. Eser Rabbi Yochanan who says it's possible. Reish Lakish who says that what? That it's kasha. Right? You have cherev. Chorev shenis arev b'balol. if you have a mincha that is dry, that got mixed in with a mincha that is oily, yakriv, right? You can bring it. This is the chachamim, right? Rabbi Yehuda Omer lo yakriv. Rabbi Yehuda says you cannot. Now, why did the chachamim say you can be makriv, fellas? Because ein oilin mevatl zeh. Things that go up in mizbeach are not mevatl each other. Good. That's the reason. My love koimitz the minchas chayta. When we speak about a dry mincha, aren't we speaking about the mincha of a chayta that has no oil at all? The Arav bekoimitz the mincha nedava. They got mixed in a regular mincha, and it says that what? It's now even Rabbi Yehuda says you can't bring it, and the Chum say you could bring it. Now the reason the Chum say you could bring it is only because ein oilim mevatlan says zeh, right? Mashma with that at that svara, it would be puzzle. That's the kasha on Rish Lakish, right? If you look at Rashi, v'afilu rabban layami yakrav elam mishum the oilin ein mevatlan says zeh. V'hechad isya aminchas nedava shadinale. Avalam nafal shemen bekoimitz the chayta. Afilu rabban layakriv. So doesn't belong there. Shemen is not supposed to be makriv, guys. There is not supposed to be any oil in that, so therefore it's not oila. If it's not oila, so that's the kasha Rish Lakish. And for the Gemara, it's not speaking what you think about. It's not speaking about the mincha chayta that has no oil. It's speaking about a mincha that has less oil than another mincha. What are you speaking about? When it says a minchas chorev, a dry mincha versus a mincha belula, we're speaking about minchas parim ve'elim ve'minchas kvasim. Now, we know that, I don't know if we do know, but we say it all the time. What's the amount for a par? How many esroinim of our? Shloisha esroinim la par, right? Ushtei esroinim la ayil, keves, v'yisarim la keves, right? It's 3-1. What's the ratio of oil? Chatzi ahin, shlishis ahin, revius ahin. Ahin is 12. So the ratio is 6-3. That's the ratio of a par. 6 oil, 6 esroinim to what? To 6 light. 6 light to 3 esroinim, or 2-1, right? 2-1 ratio. A ayil is 4-2. Is a half, and a keves is 3-1. So we're speaking about the ratio 6-3 versus 4-2 versus 3-1. So of the three, these are the one is when we speak about a chorev, we're speaking about the ones that have the ratio of oil. You know, you have more oil in one than the other, right? You have more oil in one than the other. So you have 6 in the parim, that's 6-3. Elim is 4-2, and kvasim is 3-1. But the bottom line is that you have more oil in the parim, the elim, and less oil in the kvasim. So therefore, it has no bearing on our question. Our question is the minchas chayta, which has no oil at all. Here we're speaking about kabbanis that have oil. And the question is how many? And why is one considered chorev versus the other? Because they have less oil than the other one. That's it. Fred the Gemara, how can you say that possible shad? Right? Minchas par v'habehedya ketani la minchas parim ve'elim minchas kvasim v'chorev shenesar bebol yakriv Rabbi Yehuda Omer lo yakriv. Says I'm not prusha come farishla. Just explaining. In other words, when it says it doesn't mean chorev bol is like a separate b'theatzmai that it's a chayte and regular carbon. No, it's the explanation of the what is a chorev and a bol. That's a minchas parim to minchas kvasim. Boy Rav, another shaila. You went ahead and you pushed out all the oil on top of eitzim. 3-way machloikas between Rashi, Tosfos, exactly what the pshat is over here. A kitza, you have the koimitz oil was put in on eitzim. Now you have oil in the eitzim. You have oil outside the eitzim. Good. And now you want to know on top of that's the koimitz. You want to know if it's considered a koimitz that's chaser. Mahu chiburi oil and koil and dami. We'll consider it connected. Oilav koil and dami or not connected. So in other words, if it's connected, it'll be oil. If it's not connected, not. Amir Ravina Ravashi lav hainu Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. Is this shaila that Rabbi is asking, not the machloikas between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, the itmar. Hamaila aver she'ein by kazayis. Yeah, yeah. But there's a halacha of halal b'chutz, guys. Remember in Zvachim, shchutei chutz, halal b'chutz, right? Srika b'chutz. So now you were Mila b'chutz and Aver, but we said you need a share of kazayas. Now it doesn't have the share of kazayas. The etzem mashlimo kazayas, and the bone goes ahead and completes the share to a kazayas. Rabbi Yochanan Amar chayiv. Rabbi Yochanan says you be chayiv for halah. You're going to combine the two. Reish Lakish Amar pater. Rabbi Yochanan Amar chayiv chiburi oilin koilin dami. Reish Lakish Amar pater chiburi oilin lav koilin dami. So l'chayra, what's Rava? It's a machlokes. Late Rabbi Yochanan, it would be connected. Late Reish Lakish, it wouldn't be connected. Since Rabbi Yochanan says Yechayiv, you mitztarif for kazayas, who adin, you mean mitztar, it's oila, you go ahead and get the oil, mix it together, and be, considered as one, as you still have the full share of oil. Says the Gemara, Tiboil Rabbi Yochanan, Tiboil Reish Lakish, still a shaila. Tiboil Rabbi Yochanan. In other words, there's a chilik between a bone and a chilik between oil. Ad kan loy kam Rabbi Yochanan hasam ela be'etzim demina de basahu. Since etzim comes from the animal, so I would say it's like min basar. That may like consider it connected. Aval haid lav mina de kaimitzu, but the oil which is not mina de kaimitz, right? And it's in the etzim itself. It's in the etzim itself, right? Loy idil mafil reish lakish loy ka'amar ela be'etzim the bar mafishu. It's going to separate. You don't eat the bone, you separate it. The parish lav mitzvah ladure. Let's say poik again, guys. Remember, it's on the mizbeach and it goes off. You don't have to put the bone back on. So you see that it's parish. Avol shem and the lav mafreshu. It's not going to separate in the first place. Loi. Idil malashna. The Gemara says teku. Both side. The shaila remains unclear. Unanswered. Side kontra Yochanan. Side kontra Reish Lakish. Okay, we're going to bring a mishnah with three cases. And being in a machlokes, we get to the Gemara machlokes that we learned yesterday. Okay, so we know by every mincha you do a kmitza, and that kmitza goes in the kli, gets burnt, and whatever's left over is called the shirayim. Whatever's left over is called the shirayim. Shtei menachos, shaloi nikmitzu. You have two menachos that will not nikmitzu. In other words, you have Reuven's, you have two. They can be from the same person. I would think, right? So you didn't do kamitza yet, and they get mixed together. Im yachol likmoitz mizu b'fnei atzmai u'mizu b'fnei atzmai. If you're able to go ahead and take kamitza from one and kamitza from the other. So, for example, you know that in the kli that it's in, you have enough of one area on one side and enough of the area on the other side to do a kamitza. And therefore, you're assured that your kamitza is coming from carbon A and the kamitza is coming from carbon B. So if the mitzias is that you're able to do kamitza from one side and the other side, then ksheros, then it's kasha, since the sides are separate, then lav, and if not, then psulites. Right. So why? Because the pasuk says, "The kamatz misham malei kumtzoi misalta," and we learned we dashed misalta v'loi misaylus chaverasa. So it has to be you take it. In other words, guys, look at me. Since there was no kamitza done, what's the big spitz? Go ahead, do kamitza. It's all virgin territory. It's all flour that hasn't been used. And the answer is, you have to take misalta from its soilus. If you're going to take, and it's not from its soilus, and you take it from the other soilus, that doesn't work. It has to be from its soilus. Misalta v'le misalta chaver. Okay, so it can't be brought from the other one. Okay, so therefore, that's case number one. Case number two. Koimitz shenis arav b'mincha. Shaloi nikmatza, you have a kaimitz ready for being burnt, and then it falls into a mincha that the kaimitz wasn't taken out from. So you have a kaimitz ready to be burnt, and now it falls into a mincha that had not been nikmatza. So it's what's the halacha? Lo yakti, you can't burn it. You can't go ahead and put up the whole thing and burn it. Vim hikder, and if you do burn it, so Reuven has a mincha that had the koimitz taken out of it. Shimon has a mincha that not. Reuven's koimitz falls into Shimon's mincha. If you burn all, you shouldn't burn it, but if you burn it all together, Reuven will get he'll be oil Shem chayva. His koimitz will have been burnt, and Shimon, obviously, since there was no koimitz taken, will have not accomplished anything. That's case number two. So case number one is two komitza from two minchas that mixed together with no komitza. Case number two is one komitza with a mincha that hadn't been. And case number three, nis'arav kumtza b'shireha, oy b'shireha shachaverta. So you have a koimitz, and now you have a mincha that had been nikmitza, and you have shirayim. So it could be either the shirayim from that koimitz fellas, or shirayim from another koimitz. Reuven goes ahead. He takes korban A. He does a komitza. Lo and behold, the komitza falls back into the shirayim of korban A, or the komitza falls into the shirayim of korban B, right? But that you burnt already, and it's shirayim. What's the halacha? Lo yakter. You shouldn't burn it, right? Kol shemimen alis. And guys, remember, we had this quite a few times. Are you allowed to burn basar on the mizbeach? No, imurim go on the mizbeach. Basar doesn't go on the mizbeach. The pasuk says, "Lo saktiru mimenu isha la Hashem." Do not go ahead and be burned from it. It's speaking about sarva devash isha la Hashem, and we dash in the following: Kol shemimenu leishim. Anything from it that had gone on the fire, hayu bas saktiru. So, if the imurim went on the fire, then you can't go ahead and burn. Guys, then you can't go ahead and burn the basar. If the koimitz had gone on the fire, you can't burn the shirayim. Kol shemimenu Hashem, anything that, from it, you had a part that went to Hashem, lo saktiru. Whatever's left over is like saktiru. So basar you can't burn. Why? Because the imurim went to Hashem. Shirayim you can't burn because the koimitz went to Hashem. Memela over here, you shouldn't burn it. It's asa. However, if you do it, it's going to be a good carbon because you burnt the koimitz. You're not allowed to do it, but if you do it, so three cases, right? Case number one, two minchas get mixed together. Case number two, a koimitz that gets mixed in with what? With a mincha that had not been gekoimitzed, nikmitzah. And case number three, that the koimitz got mixed in with shirayim. Okay, very geschmack. Now the Gemara this next Gemara is not easy. I have to tell you it's not easy, but you're going to get it. I'm sure of it. We saw machlokes yesterday, fellas. That you say this machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim. You have dam of the sa'ir and dam of the par, right? And it says them both distinctly. Why? We all know that there's more dam of a par than there is of a sa'ir. If that's the case, it should be mevatalit, and you should only say dam of a par, but it doesn't. Why not? Says Rabbi Yehuda is Yisoid, min b'minoi ain't a batal. Min b'minoi is ain't a batal. Good? Comes on the Chachamim. If you wanted to tell me min b'minoi is not batal, why did you tell me it in the heichatimsa of a carbon, of dam, that's gespitzt? Why don't you tell me what? In a regular case, you have a case of taruvis, you have min b'min is batal, not batal. In other words, tell me a yaridei tikadin. Don't tell me a kachem tikadin. And for elamah, what's the reason you're telling me? Because ein oilim mevatla zuazu. Min b'minoi is batal. Min b'minoi is batal. And what's the reason over here? It says dam par v'dam sayer. Since she'oilim al mizbeach, they're both going to go ahead and be gespritzt. Ein b'tela zuazu. They're not mevatla each other. That was the Yisraelistic machlokes we saw yesterday. We saw a hezber in the Ran. We saw the Ran in the Darim, which might be a little problematic based on today's Gemara. We're going to have to figure this out. We saw the Ran in the Darim to explain. Yisaidi. Said, Lenny, I cannot believe you copied that whole Ran. You cut and pasted that Ran. That Ran is like... And there's like a few lines in it. But why did we say is geschmack? We said, Rabbi Yehuda looks at one thing. What's that one thing? The mitzias. Blood is blood. This blood, this blood. And Mamela, blood is blood, meat is meat. That's what it is. Says the Chachamim, no, we look at the halacha. We look at the halacha. We look at this is mutter, this is asa. Memela, it's not mimba minoi. It's mimba sheina minoi. It's because we don't look at mimba minoi in the mitzias. We look at what we look at. We describe. It has to have the same halacha. If it has a different halacha, it's mimba minoi. Right? That was the aside. That was the aside. Memela dam par dam soyer. They were what? Why oila zumizu? Why they were oila? Because again, that was what we saw yesterday, and that's why it was oila since they were different. It's like min b'shein amino, and therefore they're not mevatel each other. Therefore not mevatel each other. Okay, so guys, if the min b'mino is bottle, so why do we call it dam par dam sayer? Is because of the oilam zumizu. That's what we saw in the Ran yesterday. Okay, with that in mind, what we're going to do is we're going to bring in a difficult halacha, and we're going to go ahead eventually get back to our Mishnah in the three cases of the Mishnah. Okay? Amar Rav Chisda, nevela betela b'shchutais. You got one piece of nevela and two pieces of shchutais. Now, we're not speaking about Yeridea, guys. We're speaking about Tumah. We know nevela is an avatuma. You could be mevatel tumah. So you have one piece of nevela and two pieces of shchuta, right? What's the halacha? That the nevela is bottle. And therefore, if it touches what? One of the pieces, if one of the pieces touches truma, we're not going to be toila. We won't say it's a suffix. Got it? Guys, you got it? One nevela, two shchuta, the shchuta wins. And therefore, we're not going to say it's tummy. She efshel shchuta shetas nevela. Once an animal, as we say in Yiddish, is geschachten, it can't become nevela. Once it's geschachten, it can't become nevela. However, ushchuta eina betela. However, converse, sheyesh shchuta shetas nevela. Ushchuta eina betela benevela. Right? However, if you have one shchuta and two nevelos, then it's going to be batel she'efshel shetasa shchuta. Therefore, it's possible that for the nevela to become shchuta. How can a nevela become shchuta? The lechi misracha, when it becomes putrefied, parcha tumasa. In order for nevela to be tameh, guys, it has to be edible. What do you do with nevela? You give it to a ger. If the ger won't eat this because it's putrefied, it loses its shem tumah. So the nevela can become a shchuta. So a shchuta can't become nevela, but nevela can become shchuta. So therefore, nevela, nevela, which cannot become shchuta, will be batel. However, nevela, two shchutas and one nevela, the nevela can become. Therefore, it's why it's going to be batel. But you have two nevelas and one shchuta, then it's going to be min b'minoi. Okay, we're going to see Bez Hashem. So this is the shita of this is the shita of Rav Chisda. Rav Chanina Amar, Kol she'ef shaloi liyos kemahu, and he says the opposite. Kol she'ef shaloi, where the batel, where the minority can come like mavatel, then ain't a batel. The Kol she'ef shaloi liyos kemahu batel. Okay, so this is the shita. Here's the chart. It's an old chart, but hopefully it'll do the job. Here. You have it, Nassim? Wow. Okay, I didn't do a smart thing over here. Says Rav Chisda, if I have one nevela, and two shchutos, it's going to be batel. In other words, it won't be tameh. The nevela will be batel. However, if I have one shchuta and two nevelos, if I have one shchuta and two nevelos, then it's not going to be batal. However, you won't burn the truma. So this seems to be the easiest thing. You're going after Roiv over here. Apparently, it seems you're going after Roiv. So meaning, whatever the mevatel is, guys, mevatel means the Roiv. If the mevatel is shchuta, it's going to be mevatel the nevela. If the mevatel is nevela, it's not going to be mevatel the shchuta, right? The shchuta won't be mevatel it. It won't be mevatel it. Reb Chanina, he says the opposite. Reb Chanina, he says the opposite. I'm going to have to get this chart up here. Just hang in one sec. So he says the exact opposite. He says, Reb Chanina says the exact opposite. He says that where you have, he says where you have one nevela and two shchuta, I'm just going to make it smaller. You have one nevela and two shchuta, it's not going to be bottle. Since the nevela can become shchuta, it's not going to be bottle. And therefore, since it's not going to be bottle, it's going to be tameh. Whereas he says, if you have one shchuta and two nevelos, it's going to be bottle. It's going to be bottle, and therefore it will be tameh, because the shchuta is going to be mevatel to nevelos. Now, according to as far as the machloikus is, Rav Chisda goes after the mevatel. He goes after the majority, whereas Rav Chanina goes after the minority. He goes after the minority, and that decides whether it's min b'mino or not min b'mino. So in this case, the minority is nevela, is shchuta. And since shchuta cannot become nevela, right? Since shchuta cannot become nevela, then it's min, then it's going to be min b'sheina mina, and it's batal. If, however, over here, Rav Chanina says you're going to go after the minority, which is the nevela, then it's going to be what? It's going to be min b'mino, and min b'mino is not batal. This is Shita Rabbi Yehuda. Whereas Rabbi Chisda says you always go after what? The majority. So let's see now if this works out. Okay, let's see how this works out. Ali b'deman. This machloikis between Rav Chisda and Rav Chanina, this chart, ali b'derabbanon. According to Rabbanon, ha'amri oilin hu the loy mevatle adadi. Oilin are not mevatel. Aval min b'minoi batel. So this is all a moot point. According to the Chachamim, the whole chart is batel, guys. Everything is batel. Min b'minoi is batel. The whole thing is batel. It's batel. I'alibed Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda Mebeis, Rabbi Yehuda basa chasusa asal. He goes after the appearance. He goes after the physical mitzias, like the Ran. He goes after the physical mitzias. V'idi min b'minahu. They're both meat. So they both meet, they both should be ain't bottle. So in other words, you have a problem over here, guys. What's that problem? According to the Chachamim, which every case should be bottle. According to Rabbi Yehuda, every case should be not bottle. Got it? According to the Chachamim, every case should be bottle, because Mimba Mino is bottle. According to Rabbi Yehuda, every case should not be bottle. So what's this machlok? In other words, there's a machlok between Rav Chisda and Rav Chanina. It can't be in Rabbanon, because according to Rabbanon, everything is bottle. And it can't be according to Rabbi Yehuda, because everything is not batal. Yet we have Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Chisda arguing in the case. Guys, you're good? One more time. We know Rabbi Chisda and Rabbi Chanina are arguing in the case. And they're on exact opposite parts of the spectrum. And very much it has to do, you already know which takes precedent. Which takes majority or minority, vis-a-vis what's going to be mevatel the other one? What do we consider mimba minoi? If it's according to the Chachamim they're arguing, there's no argument. They hold mimba minoi is batel. According to Rabbi Yehuda, there's no machlokes, min b'mina ain't it batal. So who are they arguing according to? We're fitting this machlokes, right, into the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim. And for the Gemara, Ella Ali b'Reb Chia. They're arguing according to Reb Chia, the Tani Reb Chia, Nevela u'shchuta b'teila zu b'zu. Nevela and shchuta could be mevatel each other. Good. Now, Reb Chia, who is he saying it according to? Reb Chia Ali b'Deman. Ali b'Derabban on the same question. Hamri oilin hu d'loi mevatli adadi. It's dafka in the case of oilin, they're not mevatel. Hamin b'minoi, but if it's just min b'minoi, batel. So obviously Reb Chia can't be saying this according to Rabbanon. V'yili b'Reb Yehuda, the same kasha. Kol min b'minoi Reb Yehuda lei batel. Good. Here's where I have my problem with the Ran. According to the Ran, Reb Yehuda went only after the Mitzias, correct? Says the Gemara now, not like that. So we're going to have to see what the Ran holds. Not today, but I'm going to have to look into it. I'll leave it to Reb Yehuda. Really, the argument according to Reb Yehuda. So that chart I gave you is according to Reb Yehuda. That chart I gave you is in Reb Chia is in Reb Yehuda. V'chi kamar Reb Yehuda mimamid loy bato hanimili heicha de efshaliyas lei lemahavi k'maisa. When does he say min v'minoi is not bato? It's only it can be like when it can be the same. Aval heicha lei efshalei lemahavi kavasei. Right? When it's not like it, then bato. So when the nevela can become like the shchuta, then we're going to say min b'mino is not batal. When the shchuta cannot become like the nevela, then we're going to say min b'mino is batal. Okay. When do we say again? In other words, fellas, when the nevela can come like the shchuta, then it's min b'mino. When the shchuta cannot become out nevela, then it's min b'sheina minoi. Now the question is, how do we decide which takes precedent to say which becomes which? Continues the Gemara, Ubahakimifki. The Rav Chisda Savar, Basim Mevatel Azlinon. Rav Chisda say you always go after the Mevatel. Rav Chanina Savar, Basel Batel Azlinon. So now let's take a look back. Case number one. One nevela, two shchuta. We're going according to Reb Chia, and Reb Chia is going according to Reb Yehuda. And when does Reb Yehuda say min v'min is not batal? Is when what? When min v'min is not batal? Is what? Is when it's exactly the same. So you have one nevela, two shchuta. You go after the mevatel. The mevatel is shchuta. The mevatel is shchuta, and since the mevatel is shchuta, it's going to be mevatel in nevela. Shchuta, and certainly if you have shchuta and nevela, now here the shchuta can't be nevela, and you can go after the mevatel, right? So you go after the mevatel. So if you go after the mevatel, we're going to say what's the mevatel? The nevela. Therefore, it's not batal, and therefore it's not batal. It will be tamei. We won't burn it, but it'll be tamei because we go after the mevatel. Reb Chanina, on the other hand, says you go after the minority. So over here, in this case, where you have one nevela and two shchuta, the minority is nevela, and therefore it's not going to be batal. It's not. You go after the minority, and minority it's min b'minoi because it's nevela can become shchuta. Since it can become shchuta, it's min b'minoi and it's not batal. Over here, however, the minority is the shchuta. The shchuta can't become nevela, and therefore it'll be batal. Guys, you heard that geschmack. Guys, one more time. According to Rav Chanina, you're going to go after the minority. In this case, what's the minority? The nevela, right? Nevela can become shchuta, so therefore it's going to be min b'minoi. Min b'minoi, right, and therefore it's not going to be batal. Min b'minoi is not batal. Over here, what do you go after? You go after the shchuta. That's the minority. Can shchuta become nevela? No, and therefore it's min b'eina minoi, and therefore it's going to be batal. Good. We can now ask on Rav Chanina, who goes after the minority, and Rav Chisda goes after the majority from our Mishnah. What was case number one? You have two menachos that got mixed together, and there was no kmitza done. We said if you can be kaimitz from one, you can take kaimitz from the other. That's what you can do. So let's see what we got. Tanan. Shtei menachos shaloi nikmitzu. You have two menachos shaloi nikmitzu. That what? That there was no kmitza done. V'nis arvu zu bizu. They got mixed together. Im yachal likmitz mizu b'fneyatzim mizu b'fneyatzim k'sheiros v'mlap psulos. That was our Mishnah. Aiva hacha. Even the kametz le michada, as soon as you took kametz from number one, so guys, you have carbon A, carbon 1, and carbon 2. Good? As soon as you took the kamitza from carbon 1, what do you have now in the pot? You have shirayim of 1, and you have an untithed 2. Yes? You have shirayim from 1 and an untithed 2 that hadn't been touched. Now, let's say there's more shirayim 1 than there is in mincha number 2. So watch what happens. Kivin the kametz lemichada, you took from kaimitz number 1, you took from mincha number 1 kaimitz, idach mincha number 2, havile shirayim. No, idach, excuse me. The rest of 1 is shirayim. V'loy kamevat l'shirayim l'tivla, and we don't say the shirayim, which was the mevatel, we don't say it was mevatel the tivla, that it's not mevatel the other mincha. If there's more shirayim, we don't say again. So you're able to go ahead, fellas, look at me. If you're going to have, guys, look at me. Look at me. Very important. You have one carbon over here. You took the kaimitz. Now the rest of my hands is shirayim. If this is going to be mevatel some of this, then this is going to be a mincha that was chasa koydem kemitza. One more time. You're going to go ahead. You have two karbonis of mincha. You take the kaimitz. Now you have shirayim. If this shirayim is going to mevatel any of this before the kemitza, it's going to be like a mincha that was chasa koydem kemitza, which is pasul. Yeah, we see you could do it. So we don't say the shirayim is mevatel the what? The tevel. Says the Gemara. So that's the case. Money. Irabanan ha'amri oilin hu delay mevatli hadadi hamim b'mina batal. So the whole thing's not good, right? Mim b'mina, the whole, forget it. You're out. The second carbon's out. According to the way it doesn't work, because the shirayim are in oila, only the kaimitz. Elapshita must be Rabbi Yehuda. Now it must be Rabbi Yehuda you're saying this according to, that min b'minoi is not batal. And therefore, the shirayim of carbon 1 should not be mevatel the shirayim of carbon 2. Not the shirayim, carbon 2, period. Bishlei melamani amabasa batal as linon. Very good according to Reb Chanina that you go after the minority. So therefore, batal have kimevatel. What's the batal over here? The tevel. Carbon number 1, 2. Now guys, can carbon number 2 become like carbon number 1? You could take a kaimitz from 2, so it can become shirayim. Guys, number 1 is shirayim. Number 2 can become like shirayim. As soon as you take the kaimitz from 2, it's shirayim like 1. Again, one more time. You're going to, you want to say that you're able to take a kamitza from carbon number 2. But one second, shouldn't carbon number 2 be mevutal al yedei the bittul of shirayim number 1? On that we're saying, well, it comes, I'll explain it. According to Reb Chanina, who says you go after, in deciding what min b'mino is, you go after the minority. So the minority over here is what? Is carbon number 2. Can carbon number 2 come like carbon number 1? Yes. What does Rabbi Yehuda hold in that situation? You fulfill both components. They're both flour, and they're both halachically the same. Memela, Since carbon two, take the shirayim off number two. Excuse me, take the koimitz off two, and now you have shirayim. I understand why it's not mevatel. Min b'minoi is not batel. The lechikomitz meidach, because when you take koimitz off carbon number two, havilu shirayim. It's not shirayim. Kihani, just like carbon number one. Ella lemanda ama basim mevatel as linon. Loy the mata ama who goes after the mevatel. That's Rabbi Chisda. And what's the mevatel? Is shirayim. Can shirayim become a koimitz? Shirayim can't become a koimitz. You had the koimitz taken off already, right? Mika havi tivla, right? Lame, right? Lema de Reb Chia. It's schwer. It doesn't work out. Okay, guys, I'm going to say it outside. Okay, so just look at me. You'll get it. Landlord's giving too much heat. In deciding what's min b'minoi, what do you look at? Do you look at the minority or the majority? Reb Chisda says you look at the majority. Reb Chanina says you look at the minority. I have a case over here in the Mishnah where the shirayim of number one is the majority over the whole carbon number two. Good? Now, if that's the case, I don't understand the psak of the Mishnah. What's the psak in the Mishnah? You take a koimitz off here, and then you go ahead and take a koimitz off here, and everyone lives happily ever after. If this shirayim is more than this, then you're missing from here, and you can't do a kmitz in the first place. So bishlema, fellas, if you hold that you go after the miyut, what's the miyut? Carbon number two. And carbon number two is flour, just like carbon number one. And carbon number two can become like carbon number one, because as soon as you take off the kmitza, it's shirayim like number one. In that case, what does Rabbi Yehuda hold? Min b'mino is not batel. So I have an intact carbon to go ahead and take off, and our Mishnah makes sense. But if you're going to say the halach is like Rebbe Chisda, that you go after the mevatel, what's the mevatel? The shirayim. The shirayim can never become a koimitz. The shirayim can't become a koimitz. You took it off already, right? So therefore, why don't we say that it's mevatel, it's min be'inai minoi, it's mevatel a little bit, and you can't take it off. So how would Reb Chia learn Pshat in this Mishnah according to Rav Chisda? That's the kasha. It's a kasha on Rav Chisda and a raya to Reb Chanina. Not an easy Gemara. Did you get it? Okay, I'll go through it one more time. I'll do it. No problem. No problem. You see from this chart that Rav Chanina is deciding you go after the minority. Whatever the minority is, that's going to create the min b'mino. So the minority over here is what? Is shchuta. Shchuta can never become nevela. If shchuta can't become nevela, then it's not min b'mino, and therefore it's batel. Over here, the nevela can become shchuta. Since nevela can become shchuta, it's min b'mino, and therefore it's not batel. So it's the minority that decides whether it's mino or not mino. Once you get that, you're good. Got that? Once you get that, once you get that, guys, you're going to be home free. Good? So now, let's take that yisoid and transfer it to our Mishnah. What does our Mishnah say? You have a mincha, and you mix together. If it's possible, take kaimitz from here, everyone's great. I got a problem. Everyone's great if what? If you go after the minority. As soon as I take a kaimitz over here, I view this guy as a shirayim. My right hand is shirayim, correct? The left hand is the minority. This is your majority. If you go after the minority, I understand why I should be able to go ahead and do kmitza over here, because it can become this. It's the shchuta. It's that the nevela can become a shchuta, guys. Just like the nevela can become a shchuta, the tevel dika, the untithed the carbon number two can become shirayim as soon as you take off kemitza. And since I'm looking at it as this, and therefore it's min b'mino and not batal, great. Take here, and you're great. That's like Rebbe Chanina. But Lloyd Rebbe Chista, that you're going to go after the majority. What's the majority? Shirayim. So this is Shirayim, and this is what? Ungekaimitzt. Can this Shirayim become this? No. You took off the kaimitz already. Memela, it should be mevatel this. Meaning, and this now would be chaser, and you should not be able to do kemitza. It's a right Reb Chanina and a kashan of Chisda. And for the Gemara, a pashra teretz, meaning gezeres hakasiv. The easiest way out. When it's a gezeres hakasiv, meaning no kashas, no ifs, ands, and buts, it's a gezeres hakasiv, right? Hasam kid Reb Zera. Dam Reb Zera. Nema haktar b'kaimitz, v'nema haktar b'shirayim. Ma haktar amur b'kaimitz, eina kaimitz m'vatlas chaveiroi. Just like what? One kaimitz can't be m'vatal, and other kaimitz, if they get mixed together, they can't be m'vatal. Af haktar amur b'shirayim. So too haktar that it says by shirayim, ain't shirayim m'vatlas kaimitz, because there's a kasif. Shirayim can't be mevatel l'chaimitz. Ein achinami like the halachas of bittul. It should be mevatel it. It's min b'shein aminai. But guess what? Shirayim can't be mevatel l'chaimitz. An easier teretz than the kasha. Much easier. Okay, same case. Okay, using case number two. Question. Another question. Tashma. What was case number two? Hakaimitz shenis arid b'mincha shaloi nikmitza. A kaimitz that got mixed in with a mincha that had not been what? Taken off yet. Lo yakter, don't burn it. V'im hikter, zusha nikmitza also l'baylam, zusha lo nikmitza also l'baylam. V'loi kamavat le tivlo l'kaimitz. Now, the tevel over here, the carbon is not mevatel l'kaimitz. Now, the kaimitz zicha is the minority, guys, right? The kaimitz is minority. It got mixed in with shirayim. It got mixed in with a whole other carbon. So we don't say that like mevatel leitivla lekaimitz, and we don't say the carbon. Guys, carbon number one now is the kaimitz. Carbon number two is a full-fledged carbon. Good, and we don't say that the full-fledged carbon is mevatel lekaimitz. Money. Irabanan ha'amri oilin hu l'ay mevatel adadi hamin b'minay batel. So l'chayra, it's batel, meaning the whole thing is off. According to the Chachamim, min b'minay is batel. El Pshita Reb Yehuda. Bishlam Imaniel Basa Mevatel as Lina late Reb Chista, you go after the Mevatel. Mevatel Havi Kebatel. Over here, the Mevatel could be like the bottle. The whole Porta Chazi Lemikmatz Minei. Guys, what's the Mevatel? Guys, look at me. Guys, here's a kaimitz. You got a kaimitz, a little kaimitz. Here you have here you have a flower that is not. You go after the Mevatel. The Mevatel over here, can it become a kaimitz? Guys, look at me. Can this Mevatel become a kaimitz? Of course it could. It wasn't memela very geschmack. I can understand why it's min b'mino and a bottle. If you're going to go after them, this is a rayat Rav Chista. The majority over here is the carbon that you didn't take off. The minority is the kaimitz. If you go after deciding what min b'mino is, if you go after what if you're going after the mevatel, very geschmack. This is mevatel. This mevatel again, according to Rabbi Yehuda, can become this. Once this can come this, you're all in the same ballpark. You're saying ballpark min b'mino yelad batel. I understand why it works. However, you go after the minority. Guys, what's the minority here? The kaimitz. Can the kaimitz go backwards? No. Should be min b'mina, ein mina, and should be mevatel, right? So it's kasha on Rav Chanina. It says same teretz. Hanami kirav seira. The shrine can be vatal. Kaimitz can be vatal. Another mincha burn together. Last case of the Mishnah. Tashma. This arif kumtze b'shirayim shel chaverta. You have a kaimitz that got mixed up in shirayim, either its own shirayim or other shirayim. Now here's an asa to go ahead and to burn it, because anything that went on the mizbeach, part of it, you can't do the other part. So since the kaimitz went on, you're not able to put the shirayim on. Vim hikdar it works. If you else lebayim works. Now, what's the koimitz over here is the minority, right? And the shirayim is the majority, right? Guys, you have a koimitz that mixed with shirayim. What's the minority? In all these cases, it's just locating the minority and the majority. You have a koimitz got mixed with shirayim. What's the minority? The koimitz. What's the majority? The shirayim. And you're telling me you can burn the koimitz. So, obviously, Rabbi Chisda makes a lot of sense. Why? Says the Gemara. Now you got a problem, guys. What's the problem? Guys, watch, look at me. It's geschmack. Guys, look at me. You have koimitz and you have shirayim. Can the koimitz become shirayim? Can shirayim become koimitz? No! Shirayim can't become koimitz. You took the koimitz already off. It's shirayim. It's not a carbon that you didn't tithe yet. It was upgeshate. You took it off already, guys. You hear? Here you got a problem. Your minority can't become a majority. Majority can't become a minority. So it should buy. So says the Gemara, Bishna. The koimitz is not like the mevatel. The shirayim is not like the koimitz. Nor is the koimitz like the shirayim. Change the gersa. Now money, irabon, and the same kasha. Who is it according to? And for the Gemara B'Seira, nemra akar v'koimitz, nemra akar b'shirayim, ma akar amur b'koimitz, ein koimitz vatlas chaveroi, afa aktaris amur b'shirayim, ein shirayim vatlas koimitz. We're going to have one more case, guys. A case of matzah and spice. In the Havamin of the Gemara, the spice is the majority, okay? In the Havamin, all you want to locate, once you locate the majority minority, it goes geschmiert, right? Works so now. Toshma. Tivla beketzach, the type of spice, b'shum shemin sesame, b'chol mini tavlin, kshera, right? If you go ahead by Pesach, you go ahead and spice up a matzah. That's like a Mexican matzah. Matzahi, it's a matzah. Lishnikras matzah with tuvelis. It's called, I don't know in Yiddish how you say, Kenny, how do you say spice in Yiddish? Anyway, it's spiced, okay? It's spiced up matzah. Now, so what, guys? What's the majority? Because the official tavlin that the majority is spice. How could you have such a havamina, guys? Right? Look at Taisvis. Kasal kedaitach the official tavlin tfemi matzah. Afa pishin derech lasis kain. Even though it's not, guys. When you make a spiced matzah, it's more matzah than spice, right? Pa'omim shenis asfim tavlin b'mokem echad the ochel mi'oiset sad sheish by roiv tavlin. Ken zayin that, let's say I'll give you a good example. A very good baker, when they make a marble cake, the black is dispersed very well beyond the white. If you have a very poor baker, you'll have more black at the bottom. It sinks down. Like a poor kokosh cake, you get a thick layer at the bottom, right? It's not. So same thing over here. It's going to be like tavlin's going to be heavy duty in one spot. So in that spot, we'll view it what is roiv. Now, so salkedaita, the officially tavlin, tfemi matzah. So matzah now is the minority, and tavlin's the majority. Bishleim l'mani ama basa batal as linon. Very good according to Rav Chisda, according to Rav Chanina, that you go after the minority, the matzah, as linon batal, havi kimevatal, then therefore the matzah, which is the bottle, can come like the spice, which is the mevatel. The lechime avsha, because when the matzah spoils, havile ketavlin. They're both not good for matzah, guys. Okay, so again, what do we need to do? Two things. We need to recognize the majority, minority, and then if they becomes the same or not, right? So just like right, you can have a mincha that can become a koimitz, an untied mincha become a koimitz. Over here, you have a minority that can become a majority. How so? The matzah, which is the minority, can become like the tavlin. The tavlin is not kosher matzah. If the matzah gets spoiled, it's also not kosher matzah. So therefore, loy demand the omar that you go after the minority, and Rabbi Yehuda says min b'mina loy batal. So over here we can understand why it has why it's okay, right? The l'chim avsha havlik mevatel elaman de omar basam mevatel as linon tavlin mikahavi matzah. Tavlin can never become matzah. So the chayra, how can you say what? It's good. So Chamayaskin dolly offish like tavlin, right? The ruba matzahi floyd butler. You don't have more tavlin. Tavlin is the minority. Matzah is the majority, and the matzah can never become and tavlin can never become matzah. They can have tani matzahi. Elishnika matzah mituvelis. Kol matzah mituvelis. Shma mina. So everyone held serve. Not an easy Gemara. Thank you for listening.